Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely Thursday afternoon. My name is Lola Benfield. I work as the Caregiver Program Coordinator, and I'm actually on the other side of the state. So I am in Boone, North Carolina.
Hey.
Yeah, where I am actually very cold today. And so I work here at the High Country Area Agency on Aging, but I work to administer the North Carolina Lifespan Respite Program, which is something we're going to tell you about today. So you'll learn more about that in just a moment. Gail and I had a chance to connect at our Lifespan Respite State Advisory Team meeting last month. And I've just heard so many wonderful things about Gail and what a giant she is in the aging community and in the dementia community specifically. So I'm very honored to be here and be with her people, you all. So today's presentation, we're just going to talk about respite, the power of respite, and also some options for actually getting respite care in North Carolina. So we will jump right in. This is just a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the importance of regular respite, as well as those specific options that we have in North Carolina. And I know we have several people who are involved in outreach on the call, so I just think this is a great opportunity for you all to get a deeper dive into those programs, so you can spread the word to the folks that you work with as well. So yeah, I'll turn it over to Gail. If Gail, and I'm sure all of you know Gail, but if you want to introduce yourself again or say anything here, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you, Lola. I just want to say that my journey in supporting family caregivers has been strengthened by the connections and ties we have with the Area Agency on Aging, with the Respite Coalition, and so many different organizations. We're just thrilled to have you as resources for us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gail. Thank you for letting us be with you today. And I do just want to make a note for everybody. I'm sure you saw that come up, but this meeting is being recorded by Angelo, and I believe it will be available after the fact, just as a housekeeping note. So, to welcome some of the people that we have in the room. I know we've kind of already briefly done some introductions, but if we'd like to go around and share just a little bit more about the presenters that we have today. So Lynn, if you'd like to briefly introduce yourself to our participants.
Well, I'm Lynn Racer, and I'm the Family Caregiver Resource Specialist with the Albemarle Commission Area Agency on Aging, and I'm also a Project Care Family Consultant. I have been with the agency for over 20 years in different capacities, but I believe, if I'm correct, I'm the only family caregiver specialist in the state right now that does complete direct care. I do not track down any of my respite funding to other agencies, so that way I kind of like it better. I work directly with all my families. So and I love what I do. Don't work a day.
I want to pass it to Amanda. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Amanda.
Sure. Thanks, Lola. Amanda Biggs, Project Care Family Consultant, also with the Albemarle Commission Area Agency on Aging. I've been with this team since July 1 of 2021. I was with another area agency on aging for about 4 years prior to joining this team. Again, Project Care is a dementia-specific program for caregivers, focusing on the caregivers who's caring for a loved one that has a dementia diagnosis at home. So again, just giving resources through case management, information and referral services, the dementia education and training aspect of it. And the biggest part is the respite grant funding that we're allowed to provide to our caregivers to help them get some respite. So again, like Lynn said, I don't work a day. I love what I do in supporting family caregivers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn and Amanda. As a newer person in the Aging Network, I'm definitely looking up to both of you. So I appreciate y'all being here today. And I also want to highlight Tanya Cedars, who I don't believe is on our call. She might hop on a little bit later. She is the Lifespan Project Respite Project Specialist at the Division of Aging and Adult Services. And she's someone I work very closely with in terms of administering the Lifespan Respite Project. So if she hops on, we'll give her a chance to introduce herself. But otherwise, we will proceed. So today's topic obviously is respite. So I just want to start with an open-ended question of what is respite? How do we define respite? And that might be different between us. So if you feel led to type something in the chat, or if you'd like to come off mute and kind of give your definition of respite, I would love to hear from you. So I'll open up the floor now.
Well, I'll jump in and say that respite is kind of by definition a short-term temporary break from someone's caregiving responsibilities, if you will. And I like to tell everyone I work with and also professionals that I don't define respite to a particular caregiver, because respite is so many different things to different people. So I don't aim to let them know what they should be doing with their respite time. And fortunately, with our programs, it is pretty wide open that they can be very creative with their respite time. It is to take and try to rest and recharge.
Yes, I agree.
Go ahead, Brenda. If you'd like to add anything, please do.
I was going to say, I agree with that. The respite definition is for me is to be able to walk away, get a breath of fresh air so you can come back in and work with the person that you're giving the care to. Because without it, you've got no patience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that, we're going to talk a lot about today, or a little bit about today. And I think that you both made very important points, especially that the relief aspect and the benefit of, each of our programs being that respite time is flexible. It is so designed to meet the caregiver need. And that is really what respite is for the caregivers, to meet that caregiver need. So thank you both for chiming in there. If anybody else has anything to add, thanks Gail and Sarah for jumping in the chat as well on that. If anyone has anything else to add, thoughts on how we define respite, please feel free.
This is Amanda, and when I provide a respite grant to my caregivers, I try to emphasize for them to go and do something that they have not done in a while, such as go and eat lunch with a friend, go on date night with your spouse, go away for the weekend, have someone there with that loved one that can really let you go and get away so that you can recharge that caregiving battery and come back and just be a whole new person. Because it's hard when you're unable to get some sleep, because when they don't sleep, guess who else doesn't sleep? And when you don't sleep, you're sleep deprived, you're thinking impaired, and hardly any good to yourself, not only to your loved ones. So just totally detaching from caregiving for at least 24 to 48 hours does them a world of good. So I just tell them to make sure they try to schedule something that they just haven't been able to do for several years, because caregiving has consumed their entire life.
Yeah, that seems to be really powerful advice, Amanda. And I think we see in some of the research that I've read that planning a specific activity to do during that scheduled respite time is so much more restorative. So I think that's just phenomenal advice. So our specific definition in the Lifespan Respite Program is basically really tracks with what we've been talking about, that it's a break for the unpaid caregiver who's providing ongoing care for an individual of any age who needs help, care, supervision due to disability, chronic condition, or other special needs. And, key point being respite is intended to provide relief to the caregiver, which is what we've already been talking about. So, and this really tracks along with, the conversation we're already having, but why is respite useful? And I think we could also incorporate in this question, why is respite hard too? Why is respite hard for people to see that as a need? So opening up the floor for discussion on that, either in the chat or if you'd like to come off mute and speak.
Well, I think we've touched on a lot of it in our general conversation prior to this question, but however, we have to look at realistic respite needs for caregivers. Some caregivers just need to go into the bedroom and get a 4-hour nap. I had one caregiver to tell me, I just want to be able to get in my car, go to McDonald's, get an ice cream cone without having to take my loved one with me. Just some private, separate me time, just to be able to just put my mind on something else. So it's very useful for the caregiver who's directly caring for that loved one 24 hours, 7 days a week. I mean, even just a few minutes of just me time, so it is very useful and needed.
I think also it is helpful to have somebody routinely come in so that if something happens emergently and their caretaker is not able to be there, that they're used to somebody else coming.
Talking about being hard, was it one of the reasons is because the caretaker has a feeling of guilt that they're leaving their loved one alone with somebody that maybe they don't know, or so they, like Kathy said, they should have somebody ahead of time to build up that trust so that feeling of guilt is dissipated. So that was one of my thoughts.
Sometimes I think it's great to have something regular, even if it's only a couple of hours. I've found that I've had several caregivers tell me that to know that every Wednesday afternoon I have 3 hours I can decide what I'm going to do with and plan for those 3 hours, whether it is, like Linda said, taking a nap, whether it's using it for times to actually take care of business, which we all know are things that have to be done, grocery shopping, paying the insurance company, whatever you have to do. But knowing that you can take care of that every Wednesday afternoon, and then also plan just that fun time, Amanda said, where you can do something you haven't done in quite a while, where you can reconnect with the outside world. Because I know myself, having been a caregiver multiple times, that sometimes you lose touch with what's happening outside and with the other people that you used to communicate with. You can get very isolated. And so I think it's useful to be able to reconnect with your life before giving.
I have a question. How long does it take? I have a friend who recently became caregiver for her mom, and mom's lived with her probably 6 to 8 weeks now, and her husband are dividing the caregiving because the husband's retired, but she's not, so she's still going out to work, but she has her own business, so she goes out when she needs to. But how long does it take for the caregiver to be tired and wanting to do something other than caregiving?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up on my end a little bit, so I didn't hear the end of that.
I asked, how long does it take for a caregiver to want to do something other than caregiving, to get out there and do something for themselves? That was my question.
I think it probably varies depending on the caregiver. I've had some caregivers that I've worked with for years that never actually utilized any option I had for respite. They just kept saying, I've got it. I want to wait, I know things are going to get worse. And so I'll wait and save it until things get worse. And when I finally talked them into doing it, they get that first break for 3 or 4 hours. And then I had one call back like the next day and go, can I get more? Because once they have that taste of it and see how better they feel, how recharged they are, they want more. But I guess it's just very individual to the situation and the people involved.
Also depends on the patient. Excuse me, I want to say it also depends on how stressful the person you're taking care of is. My father-in-law, he was an angry man.
Mhm.
And he and my husband, they would just fight back and forth at each other. And I just couldn't stand it because it was just like really nerve-wracking. So I would just simply walk in the room and then they'd calm down because I knew I didn't want to hear them bickering back. But he was an angry man. And when we left, when we went out, we had somebody come in, visiting angels came. And when we left, he accepted her, but he always waited for us and kept asked the lady, when are they coming back? But anyway, basically he was just, it's the hard part is if they're really angry and just grumpy old man is what he was. Sorry, long way of putting that.
Yeah, I think those are such great points. And some of the research that I've looked at has suggested that taking respite early and often, early in the caregiver journey can be really important to preventing burnout, to even getting to the place where you can't take it anymore. If you prioritize that from the beginning, there's some evidence to suggest that can help prevent the burnout. So I would definitely encourage your friend to be cognizant of that and go ahead and start thinking about self-care before they need it so badly that they can't go another day.
Yeah,
Did you have anything to add, Amanda, or anyone else? I'm sorry if I just spoke over someone.
it's Gail, and I just wanted to say that here on the Outer Banks, the caregivers burn out, and they've been known to take their loved ones to the Outer Banks Hospital and say, I can't do it anymore. So respite has been proven to support families and enabling them to continue their role. So thank you for offering this.
I would like to add that I go to a caregiver support group here on the Outer Banks also. There's generally 10 to 15 of us that do that. It's the first Wednesday in every month. And it's all women, except for me. In the past, there were men. There were I'd say way back when I started, which was like 5 years ago, going to this, there was a couple of guys that showed up. I think there's a hesitancy among men to look for support or look for help. There was a guy that showed up about a month and a half ago. He walked in. We said our names around the table. He did that. He got up and left. So I think this is a very useful thing. I mean, I logged into it to find out more. I'm not adverse to sitting in a room with a bunch of good-looking women, so I go to my support group every month. I don't, it doesn't bother me. But I think information like this, especially here, needs to get out. I'm glad it's being recorded, and that hopefully it can get some broader distribution. This is my wife, Sandy, by the way.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi,
The other
Sandy. It's good to see you.
the other thing is that, again, as Brenda pointed out, generally speaking, since women are generally taking care of either their spouse or another loved one, a father or something. A lot of the times men are very difficult to deal with. I think, that's the general consensus I get from my support group, where on the other hand, I don't particularly have that problem. But so I think that's another aspect that where this really would be useful is that especially for ladies out there that are dealing with a difficult spouse or difficult relative. Okay, that's all.
I think you guys touched on everything pretty much I was going to say. I did want to just add one little thing, and that is that we deal with a generation who, take their vows very, very seriously. And they are a generation who is going to take care of their own. And like Lynn say, you may award someone a respite grant voucher, but some of them use it and some of them don't. I got this, I'm good for now, or things like that. When just understanding and realizing, that the resources are out here to help you. This is assisting you with caring for your loved one at home so that you don't become so burned out that you are, like Gail said, dropping them off at the hospital and saying, hey, I just can't do this anymore. So, utilizing the resources that are out there early on is very, very useful.
Thank you so much, everyone who shared. That was a really useful perspective for me, so I really appreciate y'all sharing. Yeah, and basically what we've been talking about, you can't pour from an empty cup. In terms of even like the level of care that you're able to provide to your loved one, your own emotional well-being as a caregiver is paramount to even be able to have the reserves to provide that care. And research has shown that short breaks lead to improvements in that emotional well-being, with caregivers reporting feelings of normality. Like Amanda said, just being able to go to McDonald's and get an ice cream cone, by yourself, that feeling of normalcy and freedom. And also something we touched on, the peace of mind and relief. And I'm really am getting a sense of how difficult that can be. But research does show that being able to step away can help provide that peace of mind. And as we've mentioned, it has a restorative effect on the caregiver and helps to actually manage those long-term stressors. And I really liked this quote: taking care of myself doesn't mean me first, it means me too. So just want to let y'all sit with that for a moment and resonate with that. Okay, so, and Angelo just popped in the chat and let us know that Lynn's audio is a little bit breaking up. And if you missed something, she says, please ask her to repeat the statement so we can make sure we hear what Lynn says. Alrighty, and just some more from the research that I looked at. This is a quote from a caregiver who says, I initially found myself thinking, I'm the only person, the only one who can't do this, who can't get it right, meaning managing caregiving. But then I began to realize that actually I was normal. Having respite helped me realize that it was normal to need a break. And after I accepted help, I could finally see that it works. So in terms of, the difficulty of actually getting someone to use the respite voucher, actually having that conversation with folks, and I know we have several people on the call today who are in that role of outreach volunteers and having these conversations with people. So we found that, getting, even if, and Tanya has said this to me, even if they hire someone to come and they don't even leave the house, the caregiver doesn't even leave the house, they just go spend time in another room because maybe they're not comfortable leaving their loved one with someone they don't know, then that is still a taste. And once we get that taste, and once you can see the small benefits of respite, that could help encourage a caregiver to take bigger leaps, to take that break and go to McDonald's and get an ice cream cone for 30 minutes instead of just spending that time in the next room. So I would, if people are hesitant, I would definitely, the benefit, especially of our lifespan respite program, is that we can be really flexible. So I would just encourage folks to continue considering respite. So thank you so much for the lively discussion. We're going to get into a little bit more of an informational piece of the meeting now, and go through some of our publicly funded respite options that we have here in North Carolina. So we'll kick it off with Amanda, who's going to talk to us a little bit about Project CARE.
I forgot I was muted. Okay. Yes, Project CARE. It is coordinated. It is a coordinated delivery system that responds to the needs, values, and preferences of individuals who directly care for a family member or friend with Alzheimer's disease or related dementias. The service availability, like I said before, is care consultation, dementia-specific training and education, funds. The biggest part is the respite fund vouchers that we are allowed to award in the amount of $500. And they can be used in the funding can be used in various different ways. Group respite, if that is the same as an adult daycare information, it's my first time hearing of group respite, but I'm assuming it's the same as adult daycare.
Amanda, can I
facility.
just jump in here real quick on group respite?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, adult daycare, you need to be licensed in North Carolina, and there's 2 levels of care, social and health. In group respite, you can offer it at a church as long as you keep it below 6 hours a day and 4 days a week. And it's also got guidelines, but there's no licensure currently in North Carolina for group respite. But
Okay.
group respite is easier for other groups to start and keep it community located, right within your community.
Okay, great, Gail. Thank you so much for explaining that to me. So it's an unlicensed aspect as a adult daycare center. So if a family member chooses to take their loved ones to one of those respite sessions, then they can definitely use the funding towards that. Project CARE focuses on the caregiver, so our funding goes directly to the caregiver, and they're responsible for any fees that may come from the group respite session or the adult daycare.
Amanda,
Yes,
excuse
sir.
me, is that a one-time voucher?
Well, it all depends on the need of the caregiver. In one fiscal year, the state's fiscal year is from July to June. We're not a January to December calendar, but in one fiscal year, a caregiver can be eligible for up to 3 vouchers, which is a total of $1,500 in a
Okay.
fiscal year from July to June.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Institutional respite, yes, that's if someone, say a family caregiver is planning a trip out of state for a couple of weeks and would like to place their loved one into an assisted living, then they can definitely use some funding to go towards that. Now, it will not take care of the entire bill, but it will take care of the care that's directly affecting the care recipient. Okay. In-home care provided by a licensed home care agency. That's any of your healthcare agencies. So you can use it towards that as well. Caregiver directed home care through a private caregiver that's hired by the family. This could be a church member, it could be the neighbor down the street, it can be a really close friend that comes in and helps you with the care of your loved one so that you can go and get that break however you need it. Okay. And connections to community-based services and resources. That's, referring family caregivers on to other resources that are available in the community, again, to help them keep their loved one at home safely for as long as possible and make sure that they are able to get a little bit of a respite break. Eligibilities and guidelines. Care recipient must, of course, have the Alzheimer's or a dementia diagnosis of any kind. While there are no requirements on income, that just means that it's not means-based. The program gives priority to those individuals who may be underserved, okay? Caregivers of persons receiving NC Medicaid Cap DA waiver are not eligible to also receive care consultations assistance. However, Project Care can provide dementia education training and referrals of other community-based services. Caregivers of persons on a wait list of enrollment for those programs, CAP DA, Medicaid, in-home APs, which also includes the VA as well. If veterans are on a list or to see if they're eligible for the in-home APs, while they're on that list, we can serve the caregivers for their loved ones until they are accepted into those programs.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda. If it's okay with you, Amanda, I'd love to open the floor for questions specifically about Project Care before we talk about a different program.
Absolutely.
Amanda, how do you apply for this?
Just give me a call. We can do a phone assessment. If you're comfortable with me coming to your home, we can definitely do an in-person assessment. There's a couple of forms that the state of North Carolina will have me to complete with the caregiver, and we'll see where you are and if you're eligible for the program.
Okay.
And if you're in Dare County, I'll just jump in. The Albemarle Commission Area Agency on Aging had a contract for the Northeast region of the state for Project Care. And so the Albemarle Commission covers the 10 counties around the Albemarle Sound. So our contract is for 29 counties. Amanda does 19, and I do the 10 that our area agency covers as our primary counties. So if you are in Dare County, which I'm assuming you are, then you would give me a call.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Lynn,
Yeah.
your part of you got cut out, so I don't know. How do you contact you?
Okay, so
Yes,
there's a
sorry about
brochure.
that.
I'm sorry, it's okay. There's a brochure that I can send to Lola with my contact information and Lynn's. And if you get me and I'm not serving that county, I'll definitely get you to the correct person. This program is available in all 100 counties of North Carolina. So if it's a county that Lynn or I do not serve, and there's a loved one, say like in Buncombe County or Mecklenburg County up near Charlotte, we could definitely get them to the correct consultant to help that family caregiver out. So it's in all 100 counties of North Carolina. So just give us a call. We'll get you to the right person.
Just a quick one. Jem has a resource sheet, and it has Lynn's contact number. It has the Area Agency on Aging. It's got all sorts of information for caregivers. Just two sides. So we have that also. Or you can email me. Or Lynn, maybe we can give your email address in the chat, Lynn.
Oh, absolutely. Mhm.
And yeah, thank you, Amanda, Lynn, and Gail. We also have the contact information at the end of the slides. It'll be on the presentation as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Were there any other questions for Amanda or Lynn about Project Care? Alrighty, and we'll also have a chance at the end to ask questions. So if you think of anything, keep it in mind and we'll come back. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn to tell us about the Family Caregiver Support Program.
Okay. Let me know. I hope you'll be able to hear me. We definitely have internet issues here. I apologize for that. The Family Caregiver Support Program is, as it said on the slide, the National Family Caregiver Support Program was established to help family and informal caregivers to care for their loved ones in home for as long as possible. One of the big differences between Project Care and the Family Caregiver Program is Project Care is dementia specific. Family Caregiver Program is not. We definitely can serve families that are dealing with dementia, but it's not exclusive. So, and the services, basically there's actually 5 service areas for the program. And that is information, assistance with access to services, counseling, support groups and training, respite care, which I said earlier is defined as short-term temporary relief from someone's caregiving responsibilities, and then supplemental services. And there's a wide array of services. One of the big things I like about the Family Caregiver Program is that it is very flexible, and therefore can kind of customize through a group of services needed for a family to help meet as many of their existing needs as possible. So as far as respite goes, just like Project Care, the different types of respite that are available, or group respite, which can be a volunteer group respite program in a church, like Gail said. Licensure is not required, so that makes it kind of wide open. Adult day health care would be licensed through the state, and that's like a day program where they would have activities and meals and actually have medical staff usually on board that can actually help with medications and that sort of thing if that's necessary. Fortunately, we do not have one of those in our 10-county region at this time. Institutional respite, which is temporary placement into a long-term facility of the family's choosing. Again, this is, gives flexibility to the family and being able to direct service and direct care. And that can be, it's pretty much based, there's not a set amount of money available for that. It's based on the situation, also based on the cost per day of that particular facility, and based on the availability of my budget. You can also choose in-home care through a licensed home care agency. And that can be delivered 2 ways also. Either the family can directly pay a home care agency and then seek reimbursement. Generally, again, since I kind of do direct service with my whole program to alleviate those issues, and which can be time consuming for the family, I actually do a little fee-for-service contract with the agency that we have chosen. And would pay the agency directly. The family does not have to deal with that and does not have to put the money out of pocket up front and wait for reimbursement. So that is an option. And then there is the caregiver directed voucher program. And that works, again, all of these kind of work the same way that Project Care does. So a family can then choose private caregiver of their own, anyone other than a family member. And they would, just as the name says, direct the care. They hire the person, they determine whether that person has the skills necessary to perform the tasks that need to be performed and to be able to keep their loved one healthy and safe when they are not there. They would decide how much they're going to pay this person, either by the hour, by the day, by the week, whatever it might be. And they are going to pay them themselves first, and it's a reimbursement program. So it's completely directed. I have no relationship with the person that they hire. The only time I even see their name is when it comes back to me on a timesheet at the end of the month. And they turn the timesheet into me. I run it through our finance system, just like an invoice, and a check is mailed to reimburse. And of course, we decide on a budget ahead of time based on what they're paying this caregiver, what my budget will support at that time, and what their needs are. So it's very individual and very different for every family that I work with. And so that flexibility and is really useful to families. And we can also combination. Sometimes we'll be using private caregiver, and then for some reason, in the case of institutional respite, we might be able to do that for a time, for a few days, if the caregiver comes ill, if there's a family emergency. I've even had to do it if someone is having to be placed in an emergency type situation. They don't qualify for Medicaid yet. They're trying to push that through, and I might be able to cover a few days to alleviate that cost for the family, which also gives a break so that they can get that paperwork done and that sort of thing. So again, we try to use a combination and be very, very flexible, because like I said in the beginning, respite is different for everyone. And so it's what that caregiver and that family need at that time. And there's other services that are available through the caregiver program as well that help to support someone. Sometimes families respite, maybe they have 5 family members that are rotating, and actually they don't need respite. There may be some other things, lots of information, supplemental services and those kinds of things. But the eligibility for the program is basically you just have to be 60 years old and have at least 2 activities of daily living that the care recipient cannot complete without substantial assistance or verbal prompting. The only exclusion to that would be, or exception to that rather, would be if someone has been diagnosed with a progressive Alzheimer's dementia, they can be 18 or older. And I do have this year several care recipients who are under 50 who have aggressive genetic dementia. And so it's nice to be able to serve those folks, because in that range, generally the caregiver is still employed. And that throws a different, another wrench in the works for them. So, and the bulk of all these services put together is to maintain someone at home if at all possible, and to forego or delay at least the need for institutional care. So there are, many different things, like it says, are you juggling caregiving, family, your job and other responsibilities? Are you the grandparent who has taken on the responsibility of raising grandchildren? There is a grandparents raising grandchildren component. We have not had a lot of call for that, hardly any actually. And we also have not had a lot of funding to be able to allocate to that, because the funding formula is not kind to us here, since we're very rural. And a lot of it is based on population, and we have a very large service area, but not a big population. So, and we can also serve a parent who is caring for a disabled child, in 18 and 59 years old. So there are some other options there for respite for other types of caregivers, but the primary folks we get are the ones that are caring for someone with dementia. Probably 85 to 90% of the calls I get, or someone caring for someone with dementia, and or someone who is over 60. So that's our kind of our demographic. And any questions about any of that? I hope everyone could hear it.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Yeah, I got most of it on my end, I think. So thank you so much for that thorough explanation. And we, again, will open the floor up at the end for questions if anything does come up that you want to ask Lynn. So finally, I'm going to talk about the North Carolina Lifespan Respite Program. And I do want to make a note here that I know all of this can be a little bit confusing, like where should I go first, or where should I send someone first for those folks on the call who are in that capacity. And the first place you want to send folks is definitely to Lynn or Amanda, depending on what county they're in. they'll be your first stop. They're able to provide more tailored and wraparound services than I am through the North Carolina Lifespan Respite Program. But I'm very excited to tell you about our program because we are the catch-all. So if for whatever reason you're not able to access services through Project Care or Family Caregiver Support Program, and there's not other publicly funded respite or care in the situation, then we would be the program for you. And our program is an application-based program. We are able to reimburse eligible family caregivers for up to $500 of respite care in a calendar year. And like Lynn and Amanda spoke about, our program is caregiver directed. So that means that the caregiver is able to hire a provider of their choice, whether that be a home care agency or an individual, as Amanda said, your neighbor down the street or somebody from church. So you have that flexibility. Again, the main eligibility criteria for our program is that you can't be receiving publicly funded respite care or other publicly funded care. So that would be Medicaid, that would be Family Caregiver Support Program or Project Care vouchers. But with that being said, if a caregiver has received a Project Care voucher, and it's been 3 months or longer since they've used that respite care, we would be able to take a look at that. So our program, another benefit, and we all keep saying this because it's so, I guess to me, as a new person in aging, it seems rare that we actually do have flexibility, right? And we actually do have some discretion to meet caregiver needs in the unique ways that we are able to. So again, with our program, we do have that flexibility with considering specific cases, considering exceptions. So we always encourage folks to submit an application or give me a call if there's any question, if this program could be useful to you or the caregivers you work with. So one thing about our application process that's different than Project Care and Family Caregiver is that our application has to be submitted through a referring agent. So that could be somebody like Lynn or Amanda or Gail, or some of our outreach volunteers. Maybe we might want that one to come through Gail or somebody else we work with. But the application does have to be submitted by a referring agent. And our application's online. It's very streamlined. It's very straightforward and simple. And like I said, if you are unsure if you may qualify for our reimbursement-based respite voucher, please get in touch with me, and I'm happy to discuss specific cases and scenarios with you. And let's see, do we have any questions for me about the North Carolina Lifespan Respite Program?
I have a quick one. I know you have to apply for those funds, and it's usually on a 3-year basis. So how long have they been available in North Carolina?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gail. So these funds are made available to North Carolina through a federal grant through the Administration of Community. Oh goodness, I'm not going to get it right, but I have it right here. The Administration for Community Living, right here. So it was a federal grant that Alicia Blader at the Division of Aging and Adult Services had gotten, I believe, 12 years ago now. And it is a grant that has to be renewed every 3 years. And North Carolina has been a state who has had that renewed each time. And this time, and Zach, please correct me if I'm wrong, if you know this, but I believe we are funded now for 2 more years. Are you sure? I'm not sure.
I believe that's correct. There's hopefully some no cost extensions for another year, but we'll find out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Zach. So yes, so we're grant funded through the federal government, and then the High Country Area Agency on Aging administers that grant, this part of the grant for the state. Does that answer your question, Gail?
Thank you. Yes, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, it is super interesting. And there's programs, there's lifespan respite programs across the country, states that have received these grants and implemented the funds in different ways. So that's kind of interesting to look into and see what other states are doing as well. So if we don't have any other questions, I'll keep us moving right along. I know we're just at 2:50, and let's see, I don't believe my lovely text seems to be missing from this slide, which is no good. But basically, I just wanted to recap a little bit here. And yeah, it seems as if my text is gone, but Gail and Linda and Amanda can tell you that there was definitely text on this slide before it disappeared when I sent it to them yesterday. So yeah, just to recap, y'all, respite is important. As you know, it sounds like everybody on the call kind of understands that, that respite can be a really useful tool, because as caregivers, you do deserve to take care of yourself, and it's not selfish to care for your own emotional, mental well-being, and that actually helps you be a more present caregiver for your loved one. So today we talked about the 3 publicly funded respite options that we have in North Carolina. So the first one being Project Care. So for folks, and please correct me if you have different viewpoints of this, Lynn, Amanda, Gail, but the first place you should probably go if you have a dementia case or an Alzheimer case is to Project Care. So depending on what county you're in, that could be Amanda or Lynn. If you're in Dare County, that's going to be Lynn. And I'm not sure specifically what other counties. So first place, probably Project Care with a dementia or Alzheimer's diagnosis. Second place to look, if you fit in those eligibility guidelines of Family Caregiver Support Program, is going to be Lynn, who's Family Caregiver Support Specialist. Third place is me, the North Carolina Lifespan Respite Program. So hopefully that was a good overview. Again, I'm sorry my text was missing. And just to wrap up, this quote really struck me. This Maya Angelou quote: "Each person deserves a day away in which no problems are confronted and no solutions are searched for." So I will just let that marinate and say thank you so much for having us today. And I really appreciate everyone that jumped on the call and that contributed. And if anybody has any questions or thoughts, please share those with us. Oh, and Angela said, can you introduce Zach? Yes, I'd absolutely love to introduce Zach. So Zach Green jumped on the call. He is the High Country Area Agency on Aging Director. And Zach, if you would like to say a few words.
Yeah, thank you so much to everybody for what they're doing, whether it's helping administer these programs and providing support or being in a direct caregiver role. And my only experience so far as a caregiver is with my own 2 kids, and we just had my mother was kind enough to give us a night off the other night, and man, we came back like different people. We came back like more energized and more focused and better able to care for our kids and give love. And so I just so appreciative of the respite services you're providing throughout your region and our state. And yeah, it's been really awesome to work with Lola in the past couple months. And if you're ever up here in the High Country Boone area and want to stop in to meet the rest of the team or just say hello, we'd love to have you come visit the Boone area. So.
Thanks, Zach.
I have one question and one comment. Is there any income restrictions for any of these programs?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe any of our programs are means tested. Yeah, Amanda, Lynn.
Yes, I actually failed to mention that there are no income or asset restrictions for either Project Care or the Family Caregiver Program, or with an area agency on aging too. In general, we provide other services as well. We have no income or asset qualifying for that. We have what's called consumer contributions. Someone who's receiving a service can contribute to the cost of a service if they wish to, goes back into expand that service. But none of the things that an area agency on aging provide are income based, which is great. And it was developed that way. The funding comes through the Older Americans Act. And that was kind of the intent initially, was to serve a population that might be over income for entitlement programs, but still could use a little help paying for some care that perhaps had not planned for.
And my comment is, I think this was a great presentation. I'm a little disappointed that they're, given the size of our community here on the Outer Banks, who are caregivers, that more caregivers, especially the meetings I attend and the frustration that is always bubbling to the surface in the caregiver meetings, that there weren't more who didn't zoom in on this. And I'm hoping, at least for my part, the next caregiver meeting that I go to, I will certainly say that Angelo has recorded this and that this is available through, I hope I'm not going out of bounds here, Gail and Angelo, by saying that.
Mike,
that
we
this,
shared that. We shared the information with the Dementia Coalition, which is the host of the
Sure.
caregivers. So we're thrilled. This information is so important. We need to get it out wherever we can.
I know that I'm sure you give it to them, but I'm actually talking about the people on the ground like me who are caregivers. And it's a little disappointing that, most of the folks here are people who are in one way connected to the programs and not actually benefiting, or well, maybe you benefit, I don't know, but you're not generally a recipient of all the good things that you're putting out here. So yeah, it's a little disappointing to me. But given whatever, I certainly will make this known to the groups that I go to. So thank you very much today.
And-
I appreciate it.
And Mr. Furlow, and we'd be happy. I have given presentations at the Outer Banks for many different organizations, and we are happy to schedule something for civic groups, churches. We do a number of trainings. Amanda and I think I can speak for her. We'd be happy to schedule something to come down. I facilitate a support group, and of course I give them information all the time. I have presented to one of the support groups down in Dare County too. It's been quite a while, but feel free to contact me, and I would be happy to schedule something or any kind of group you're affiliated with. And then hopefully they can spread the word to the other groups that they're in as well. That is definitely part of my position here, is to get that word out.
Sure, I will pass it on, no doubt. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both Michael and Lynn. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share, questions before we wrap?
I guess I'd like to follow up on Lynn's offer and perhaps schedule a time in April where you can come down, and that will give us a chance to spread the information that we shared today and maybe generate more people coming. What do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. I didn't get quite all of that, but
Okay.
but yes.
Thank you, Lynn.
I trust you, Gail. I'll do it, whatever it was.
Oh, God bless you.
No questions asked, whatever it was. That is funny. All right, well, here is our contact information. Both Lynn and Amanda, as well as Tanya at the state level, who works with this project, with the Lifespan Respite Project, and I'm down here at the bottom. So if you'd like to jot this down or take a picture, and I believe Gail has these slides. So Gail, if you'd like to send these out, you're more than welcome. You definitely have my go ahead on that.
That was my question. I'd love to send them out with the recording. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone
No
that
worries
wants
on
them can just email me and I'll send them out.
Okay, great. All righty, y'all. Well, I really appreciate your time today. It's been such a pleasure to spend this afternoon with you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Lola and Gail, for
Thank
putting this
you.
together.
All right, yes. You guys have a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Thank you very much. We really
Thanks a
appreciate
lot.
it.
Yep.
Mike, thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Nice to meet you all.
All
Bye-bye.
right.